Hi there, this is Craig, and this is a new podcast, a new series on mindfulness. And the first one in this series is about silence. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that, but just to give a context, these podcasts are part of my Deepening Circle mindfulness course that I've devised. That I'm hoping to share with individuals and organizations and whoever needs it. So it's split into 6 parts. So it's a 6-week course. The first week is about silence. So here we are. So hopefully, when you're listening to this, you all know what mindfulness is. As a quick recap, it's being in the moment with your awareness. It's trying not to judge the moment, otherwise you lose your awareness. So it's really kind of tapping into this awareness of what is when you're sitting, just breathing, feeling your breath. You're focusing your awareness on your breath. Or if you're feeling the chair you're sitting on, you're focusing on the chair that you're sitting on. So you're becoming present in the moment with what is happening. So silence is a kind of quietness, because it's hard to find true silence in the world. There's always some sort of noise going on, even if it's the sound of your breath. But silence is this amazing kind of thing that does exist. You can tap into this quietness with your awareness. You can just sit and listen. And even on a place where there's no talking, there's no movement. You could be sitting on a bench somewhere outdoors, perhaps. You can kind of feel the silence, you can feel the quiet when you're aware of it. And it's an amazing kind of resource in a way that we can tap into that wakes us up and brings us back to the present moment. You find that there's some qualities of silence. When you're tuning into it, it can sort of calm your mind. It can make your inner mind quiet, so you're not thinking as much. Sometimes you find that you get ideas and creativity kind of sparks up in you when you're quiet. You've got room to think, some people say. But your awareness is more expansive. You're more kind of looking out at what's going on, and also noticing what's going on inside, feelings, your energy, how you're feeling, that kind of thing. But it does give a sense of peace, and a sense of gratitude, even when you're sitting in the quiet. It can kind of envelop you like a cozy blanket. I really very much enjoy just sitting in the quietness, listening to the silence. It's almost like you're creating a sort of sacred space for yourself to sit. You're giving yourself room to just pause in your day, just to sit. Nothing more important than just sitting. And it's allowing your mind space, gaps hopefully start appearing between your thoughts. So you're not just in a constant stream of must do this, must do that. You're pausing into quietness, into silence. This can also be useful in communication. If you're talking to someone or listening to someone, you're kind of pausing before you speak, before you engage with the conversation. You're listening. So silence provides quite a lot of things. It's amazing what it can do. But it's so interesting that as humans, and in our conditioned habits, we tend to avoid sitting in the quiet or sitting in silence. There seems to be a fear of silence. And I think this is mainly down to our habit energy, the fact that most days we're always thinking about stuff to do, and our mind is also very unsilent in that it's always talking to you. It's like, I must do this, I must do that, I'm worried about this, I'm worried about that. What if this happens? What if that happens? All of these kind of stuff, all these thoughts can take us away from silence. and into basically what we think we need to be doing. We've all got deadlines, we've all got schedules and workloads to work towards. So, our brain is always thinking about these things. So, you could say when you're in your head and you're thinking a lot that you're in a kind of striving place. You're kind of wanting solutions to things, you're wanting to fix things, you're doing this to achieve that. That's kind of the striving part of us, and it's useful and it's necessary. But there are also times when it's good to come away from the head, the strivingness, the doing, and go into being. And going into being using silence is a wonderful practice that teaches us to non-strive. It teaches us to kind of accept where we are and trust that whatever's going to happen to us, that it's happening for good reasons. Everything that happens provides possibilities and opportunities to do other things. We're kind of going more with the flow of life than trying to kind of chisel it and hone it with a hammer of thoughts. So there are obstacles to sitting in the silence. We also worry sometimes that we get bored, or we might feel lonely even, and loneliness can stop us from just sitting in the quiet, because our brain is just telling us that you've got to move, you've got to keep doing something, you've got to keep your spirits up, you can't just sit here in the quiet. So when people are lonely as well, it can be very, very hard to just sit and just be in the quiet. We tend to fill our lives with distractions to try and feel better. But the freedoms that come from dwelling in the silence, you're kind of letting go of this need for distraction. You're not running away from yourself anymore. You're sitting and you're accepting where you are, and you're practicing just noticing what is happening. And when you're sitting in the quiet, you do notice things. There might be dogs barking outside your house. You might notice your breath, but you might start to notice other things. As I was saying at the start, you might notice your energy, how you're feeling, whether you're feeling joyful or fed up or grouchy. And these are good things to become aware of. The trick with mindfulness is when we can become aware of things like, oh, I am lonely, or I am bored, or I am fed up, is not to judge those feelings, because then you're judging, you lose the moment, you lose mindfulness, and you start going on a journey into your thoughts. Thoughts create more thoughts, and then you're back into your head again, trying to fix things or solve things through thinking. It doesn't always work. It's good practice to just be with whatever comes up, and the quietness can really help with that. So you're just noticing. It's like, yeah, I do feel a bit fed up, but I'll just sit here. Okay, feddy upness, I'm just watching you. I can breathe with you. Breathing in, feddy upness, breathing out, calmness. But I'm going to sit, I'm just going to notice what you do. Because you find when you start to notice these feelings that they actually shift in your body. They might give you a sensation, or an emotion or a feeling somewhere. Maybe your butterflies in your tummy, or maybe your neck is aching, or you'll start to notice these things. The more you notice, the more you can breathe with, the more you can sort of be kind to yourself, sending yourself this peacefulness. And silence can give you that. Just by sitting in the quiet, the quietness is almost like a balm. It can just give you that awareness so that you can see everything without judging it. It can give you your energy back. So freeing yourself from distracting, rushing, worrying about your worries, worrying about being lonely, worrying about being bored. All these worries will lead you to do stuff. Much better to be with whatever the feeling is, breathing, listening to the quiet, just letting things flow. Things come up into the sphere and then they go away again. You're in the moment, something happens, it goes away again. There's a flow. It's like waves on an ocean. So if we can sit there in peacefulness and in calmness and in joyfulness, just noticing what comes and what goes, we're creating this sacred space, this pause in us. And the more we lean into this pause and the awareness, the calmer we get, and the more kind of disciplined we get, and the more resilience we have in just sitting, not needing to do things. We're kind of like, what, everything's fine. This is actually good for me just to sit, just to listen to this quietness. So it's worth having a go at listening to the quiet. Even just a few minutes can be helpful, but the longer you do it for, the more your mind settles, less thoughts, peacefulness, it starts coming to you. And that peacefulness then permeates your daily activities. So notice different forms of silence as well. When you're going out in nature and you sort of sit on a bench and you just listen to the outdoors, there's a different kind of silence. Thich Nhat Hanh calls it thundering silence. So it's not tense silence, like in the middle of an argument, there's a kind of pause. That's kind of tense silence. Being outside in nature is an empowering silence. There's a joy to the sounds outside, even if it's like the trickle of water on a river or the rustle of leaves in, trees with the wind. There's a light energy there. And when you're tapping into that light energy, you're healing yourself. So very good practice to go outside, sit somewhere, listening to the quiet. There's also a type of silence which you can use in communication, which is an intention to hold the space for someone, to be quiet for someone. So it's not rushing conversations, it's not interrupting conversations, it's not talking about yourself. It's deep listening and focusing on your presence, because this presence in your communication will aid everybody in the communication. It's compassionate to just pause and just be and just listen attentively. Often we don't need to say things. If someone's feeling sad or fed up or whatever, sometimes our presence is enough. We don't have to say a word. But if we're holding them with warm, compassionate presence and energy, they'll feel better. And again, Thich Nhat Hanh calls this a noble silence. There's an intention to just be still, to be peaceful. So silence, as you can see from just what I've given here in this podcast, is very useful. It slows us down, makes us more gentle. The more we dwell in the silence, the more we see what's going on for us, the more we're likely to come to good conclusions, based on awareness, based on wisdom of what we're seeing in front of us. We'll be able to say the right things. We're not just quickly zooming into our head, which is filled with kind of misperceptions at times and drama and judgments. So the longer you're in the silence for, the happier you start to feel, the more present you feel, and it can really encompass your mindfulness practice. Try doing things in the quiet. People go on silent retreats for this very purpose. They might be doing things, but they're doing them in silence. So I hope that's giving a flavour of what silence can do. And what we'll do just now, just for 5 minutes, we're going to do 5 minutes of silence. So I'm just going to hit my singing bowl here, make a nice noise just to start. I invite you to close your eyes and just tune in to the quietness where you are. And if you notice any sounds, just let them come and go. No need to judge or think about the sounds, just let them be. And see how you feel after the 5 minutes. Here we go. So there was 5 minutes of silence, although you may have heard something, and you may have noticed your thoughts sort of going, well, that was a long 5 minutes, or when is this over, or maybe I need to do something else, or you might have been thinking about other things. But hopefully you've noticed that your mind is wandering, and you're noticing maybe how you're feeling about that. Maybe there's a restlessness or a need to keep going. So that's the purpose of being in the silence, is to notice this need to keep going and to allow yourself to lean into that and stay present where you are, to try and soften this rushiness that we have in life. It's for us to kind of slow and be graceful and gentle with ourselves, and to take our time, because when we take our time, we're thinking less and our body is healing better than if we were running around, rushing around all the time. So, especially if you're feeling uncomfortable, you're feeling tired or drained of energy, this is a good practice, even just 5 minutes like we did, sitting in the silence. So that's the podcast, and I hope it's been of use and has been interesting for you. So thank you very much for listening, and there'll be another 5 of these on mindfulness as part of this series going forward. So stay tuned for the next one. And yeah, I hope you all have a lovely day or evening wherever you are, and you'll hear from me soon. Bye just now.